Hey guys, today I'm going to be making a video on how to replace the timing chain and the little rubber gears and this little rubber cap that sits on the top of the tensioner arm that pushes down on the lever that puts tension onto the chain. I just got this bike and it's got a bit of a rattle at idle, so most common thing is that the gears have worn out and there's not enough tension pushing down on the chain. So I'm going to try that first and see how we go. I also got a big bore kit coming for it, but just wanted to do this first to see if it's worth going ahead with anything else. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drain the oil because the oil is already over full from the previous person doing a service, so I got to drain that anyway to fix that. And then I'll get these side cover off and set it to TDC, and we'll go from there.
See if I drop the sun plug in the bucket. Nope.
So while that oil is draining, I'll start taking the rest of it apart. So you take the rocker cover off. So you got two 10 mils there. This flywheel and stator cover, you take that off, but before you take that off, you got to take these two caps off so you can look through and set it to top dead center, because you need to have it at top dead center before you take your chain off. So I'll do that and get that cover off, and we'll go from there. Alright, so I've got the rocker cover off, so you can check your timing marks up there. Had to take the gear shifter off, so you can get this side cover off. Got these two inspection windows off, so you can check your timing marks, and I'll just show you something. First time I took it for a ride, I noticed that once it got warm, it was idling up and down, up and down. I thought it might have been a throttle body issue or dirty injector or dirty fuel. What I think it was is, if you look in there, you can see a little mark right there. It's a little T, and that lines up with that mark up on top of the thread there. So that's timed right. And then you got to come up to your cam. That there is supposed to be facing straight out, but you can see that it's actually angled down. And there's two little lines, and then there's that hole, and there's two lines above and below the hole. And then same on there, on the blower side. They're meant to be straight up and down, but you can see that they're actually off. So I think the timing might be that far, well, the chain will be that far stretched, or the gear will be that far worn that it's actually, the engine's not running right because it's not timed right. So I think that's what's going on, but we'll have a look once we get in there. So I'll bang this cover off and we'll have a look. So got the stator off. Yeah, I had to take the sprocket cover off, but got that off. So you can see your flywheel, and you can already see, if you look how this one looks with the teeth on it, looks nice and good. You look down at that one, there's no teeth left on it, and it also it wobbles around, it doesn't sit flush, so you can see it's sort of not sitting straight. So hopefully there's nothing else going on in there, but get this flywheel off. It's 14 mil. Just going to use a impact gun, get that off, and then usually you have a flywheel puller to get the flywheel off, but I don't, so I'll have to think of something how to get that off, but I'm sure a pry bar and a hammer will work. So we'll get that off, and then we'll have a look what's going on behind there. So got the flywheel off. That's your flywheel, and that's your ring gear where the starter motor runs on, which is this gear here. So that sits up there, and then when your starter motor engages that, it spins that, which spins your engine over and starts it. So I got that off. I just used the rattle gun to undo the nut, and then just got a big pry bar and sort of wedged it against that casing there in the back of the flywheel, and then just gave it a few smacks with a hammer, and yeah, it popped off. So that was good. So yeah, that's the gear that's in it. It's got no teeth left on it. New one's meant to look like that. So yeah, its chain's very floppy. It's actually been jumping up and hitting the casting up here, which is common apparently. I've also found that this arm here, the reason it wasn't looking like it was sitting flat was because it's actually bent. So that doesn't help that gear not wearing out either. So ideally you'd pull that off and get a new one, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to straighten it because yeah, I think it'll be alright. It's not too badly bent, so I'll just bend it back a bit straighter. So you got this bolt here, which there's a spring that runs up in there, and that's for the tensioner. But it's also got oil pressure going to it, but there's also a spring to help. And that's that other little rubber cap that I got in this bag. Got a new one of them, just because I wasn't sure if they would be worn out or not. And I mean, all genuine parts that cost me $58 delivered to my house, so can't really complain anyway about getting extras. So I'll whip that tensioner out and then take the chain off, and yeah, we'll see what else is broken in here. So I've got everything removed. I undid the bolt that goes through there to hold the cam gear on. Got that off. Then there's a bolt in there that holds this gear, and you just undo it, and it feeds out along the chain that goes in between the chain to stop them slapping around. And that gear looks alright, but got a new one of them. Got the old chain off. Once you take the cam off and pop the cam off, the chain comes with it, and then you just sort of feed it out of the gear and take the gear off, and then it just slides down here and you just maneuver it out. I've gone and straightened this out as best as I could, but I test fitted it back with the old chain and everything on before I took it off, and it's running fine, it's running true, so that's alright. And this is the little rubber cap that I also have. You can see there's a groove worn into it, so I'll replace that as well. I just had to take this bolt out for this little plastic bash plate so I could get it out of the hole where this goes up into, and put spring tension on it. But yeah, it also has oil pressure that puts once the engine's running, but that just keeps tension on it when the engine's off. Also noticed that there's a bolt missing, and that plate's spun and that bolt's loose. So I'll fix that up as well. But yeah, got the new parts to go on it. Everything looks pretty good in there. There's no metal or burrs or anything. This needle roller bearing that the flywheel goes on over the crank shaft, that looks alright. There's no pitting or anything on those needle rollers, so that's all good. So I'll just slap it back together with all the new parts, and hopefully it's good to go. So got all the new parts replaced. That little rubber end, that tensioner gear there that was all worn out, the new chain, the new idler in there, and got it all back together. Just nothing's fully tight yet, but you can see those two marks, one there, they're straight up and down. So I'm just going to sit the flywheel on there loosely. Find the key. Yep. And that still stayed the same, and then I'll just sit this back on just to make sure that the timing marks are tight. And if you look up in there, that T is in line with that little dot, so that's all good. and those ones are still lined up, which is good. Before that was probably a tooth out of a time, but that was just due to either the stretch chain or probably that gear being flogged out, or could have been a combination of both. But that's all good now, so I'll go through and tighten everything up properly and tighten the flywheel back up and put it all back together. So it's all bolted back together. I'm just going to double check my timing marks. You can see up there, that line there and that line there line up with the top of the head, which is good. And then you look in there, that little dent on top of the casting is lined up with that little mark on the left. There's two marks there. It's the mark on the left is the one you're trying to line up with. That's got a T on it for, I'm assuming, which means top dead center for when you do the valve clearance or the timing chain replacement. I went and checked the valve clearances with the feeler gauge. They're all good. So, and then I was looking at this. That was loose, but there's actually only one bolt that holds that plate on. I'm used to seeing on, like pit bikes or other dirt bikes, they have two bolts going into the gear. So I don't know if there's meant to be two, and that's a aftermarket sprocket because it's a 14 tooth. I'm not too sure what they came with standard. I know people change them to change the gearing to make it a bit more rideable and usable on the road, but yeah, I just went and cleaned all the dirt and shit off that and tightened that bolt. Put a bit of Loctite on it too. So now that's all done. I've rotated the engine over a few times and triple check timing marks as you do. And so I just got to put these two covers back on, bolt the bash plate up, put the rocker cover back on, put the sump plug in, put oil back in it, just put everything back together, and then we'll give it a start and hopefully no more ticking noise. Alright, so all covers back on. Everything's all tightened up. Cleaned up all oil that's spilt from pulling it apart. I topped the oil back up, so that's good. So see how it goes. Way better. Got a bit of this shield's a bit loose, but it's alright. Got a new exhaust coming for it, make it a bit louder of course. But it's running smooth now, so happy with that. Yeah, that's way quieter. Before you could hear this chain just slapping around and sweet. What do you reckon? Good?